Assalamualaikum and good evening. My name is Abdul Kafis bin Muhammad. I am student from SEM 6 Diploma in Law Enforcement. Today, I will present to you my assignment. My assignment title is Ethical Decision Making in Law Enforcement, Upholding Integrity and Justice. Main theme. The primary focus of my assignment should be on the ethical behavior of law enforcement officers and its significance in fostering public trust. It is essential to highlight how ethics form the foundation of fair and just law enforcement practice. The main theme for ethical decision making in law enforcement is upholding integrity and justice. It's the exploration of how ethical principles guide the action and decision of law enforcement officers in maintaining public trust, ensuring fairness, and upholding justice. It focuses on the importance of integrity, accountability, and fairness in law enforcement practice and how these values are essential to build and preserve the relationship between officers and the community they serve. The theme emphasizes the challenge of making morally and legally sound decisions in complex, high pressure situations and how this decision impact the credibility and effectiveness of law enforcement. The key point to cover is integrity. Officers must act honestly, upholding the law without bias or personal agenda. And then fairness. Officers should treat all individuals equally, ensuring justice is not compromised due to race, status, or any other factors. Next is accountability. Officers should be held responsible to their actions, and there must be mechanism in place to ensure that misconduct is addressed fairly. And then we go through with the key ethical dilemmas to include. First is use of force. The ethical dilemma surrounding the use of force in one of the most significant challenge in law enforcement. Officer may be confronted with situations that require them to make split-second decision about whether to use force, and it's so how much force is necessary. Key point to address is proportionality. Force must be reasonable and proportional to the threat posed by the situation. Necessity. Force should only be used when absolutely necessary, and order to the escalation methods should be attempted first. And then is ethical decision making process, balancing law, justice, and moral responsibility. Law enforcement officers must balance the strict enforcement of the law with moral and ethical considerations in their decision making process. This often involves navigating complex and rapidly changing situation where the right course of action is not always clear. Key component to highlight is step-by-step decision making, how officers should assess the situation and follow a logical process to ensure that their actions are ethical. Identify situation. Understand the circumstances and potential threat involved, and then evaluate the law. Consider the legal parameters within which they are operating. Assess moral responsibility is mean with the ethical considerations, how their action will impact both the individual involved and the wider community. And then consider public trust. Reflect on how their decision will affect the relationship with the community and the public trust in law enforcement. And then make a decision. Make a decision grounded in integrity, legality, and ethical responsibility. The importance of training in ethical decision making, including the role of scenario based training and mentorship, should be emphasized to ensure that officers can respond appropriately in difficult situations. Next is public trust and community impact. The positive effect of ethical practice is ethical behavior in law enforcement fosters positive relationships between officers and the community. When the officers upholding integrity, fairness, and accountability, they build trust, which in turn strengthens the effectiveness of law enforcement. Key point to discuss here is trust building. Ethical conduct the officers lead to increase public trust and cooperation, which can improve the effectiveness of policing efforts. Community safety and well-being. When law enforcement is seen as fair and just, the community is more likely to cooperate with officers, share information, and work together to solve problems. This leads to safer communities and stronger social cohesion. Long-term benefit. Ethical practice can result in long-term positive outcomes, such as reduced crime rates, fewer incidents of police misconduct, and a more collaborative relationship between the community and law enforcement. Real-life example of successful community policing and the benefit of ethical law enforcement should be included to demonstrate these positive outcomes. Catchy slogan is integrity in action, justice in service. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Again, selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye.